Okay, so our subject, Wolfgang Mozart, was born in 1756, baptized Johannes Chrysostomus Wolfgangus Theophilus Mozart. Oh my goodness.
And Chrysostomus is the Greek name, which is translated into Amadeus in Latin. So.
And so he went by mostly went by Wolfgang
Right.
Amadei, really.
Amadei, right.
Mozart, but he had different names that he
Yeah.
used actually. To a father, Leopold and Anna Maria, and he was actually the youngest of 7. His sister and he being the only surviving children, which actually was not uncommon at the time. So really, his older sister, who was 5 years older, is the only sibling that he really knew. And it was evident at a very early age, really at 4, that he could play, and that his sister was being taught by Leopold the father, and he would walk up to the piano, and he would pick out thirds and so on, and it pleased him, and he could really play, which was astonishing, and his father saw that and started teaching him. And at 5, he really started composing, which is incredibly bizarre, to be honest, right? And I mean, it's clearly the sign of a savant of some sort. And his father saw this. His father actually was his only teacher during his early years. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And not only taught him music, but taught him academics. He really did not go to school. He taught him, he was essentially homeschooled, if you will. I think a very interesting thing is there are reports of his hearing acuity being so sensitive that essentially, loud noises, dissonant noises really made him feel ill, even as a child. I think that's very interesting. And he could tell at a very early age, at the age of 4 and so on, if an instrument was out of tune. So his hearing was really quite extraordinary. He could learn a piece in 30 minutes as a child. And already early on, his father saw essentially what he had and took he and his sister out by the age of 6 to play for others. And so they essentially went on the road.
Yeah.
And in fact, at 6 they went out on the road for a short period of time, and then at 8, for 3 years, they went to the cities, Munich and Paris and London, on tour, where people were quite delighted and astonished to see such a young person playing so well. And this seems to be the beginning of a difficult relationship that he had with his father, who essentially saw that he was gifted and could be a source of income for the family, and really it was pretty much his whole world. His relationship, his father was also talented. He was a violinist. He wrote a book on violin instruction, but his son was clearly more talented than he. And this clearly affected the relationship. His relationship with his mother, we don't hear so much about. She was there, she went on tour, she was would supervise some things, but basically the father was really the center of the work and his universe. And travel was difficult in those days, right? They were not aristocracy. They were trying to get jobs from aristocracy. So they struggled with a lot of illness on these trips. His father became ill at times. He, as a boy, became ill at times. And how would you describe his early composition as a boy?
Let me try. It's not easy, but I think it is important to see the young boy Mozart, 4 or 5 years of age, and his relationship to his father. And it was very early on a truly professional relationship. Amadeus, Wolfgang, he grew up in a musician's household, and I think that's really crucial to understand. His father was the concertmaster to the Episcopal court in Salzburg, so he was in charge of instrumental music, and the rehearsals of the band took place at the house. So, you know, the Mozart children grew up with the sounds of the rehearsals, and these were good musicians, of course. And we don't know how Leopold figured out that his son had very special gifts. The older sister was very gifted too. She was a virtuoso pianist. But there was something special about little Wolfgang. Apparently, after rehearsals or so, he must have noticed that the boy went to the clavichord or the harpsichord or the fortepiano, but probably a clavichord because it's a tiny instrument that can easily be reached by a child, and that he was playing something that he had heard. I think, you know, this is the kind of discovery which encouraged the father to take the guy seriously and to see what would develop.